Okay, so I'm going to make a plate out of this bit of claret ash. There's a compass point in the middle, so I just need a hole vaguely upright to put that on the screw chuck. Now, on the screw chuck I don't need all that screw, so just space it out and turn the chuck on slow, and then I can just feed that onto the screw and then cinch it up. So first thing is going to be it's pretty well round, because it was cut on a bandsaw. So first important thing really is to get the weight off the corner, so about here round, and I use a 1/2-inch spindle gouge for that because it's a less expensive tool than the bowl gouge, and the shavings fly away faster from the shallow flute. So this is going to be it's probably around 1200 or so, and tools on its side. I'm just going to sweep the edge to the corner. Now I've got quite a bit to come off here in the way of eccentric material, so to get that off I'm going to use the wing of the tool and just hand on the rest and just squeeze the edge in. If you bring the tool in flute up, it's going to catch every time because there'll be the weight on the unsupported edge, so just keep it on its side. Now, having got a flat area down here, I can hear it smooth. I'm going to roll the tool over and take a shear cut back to the middle. That's moving using the left wing again. I want to see roughly how much more there is to come, so let's get a ruler. So it's still pretty proud in the middle. You can use the big bowl gouge now. This is a 1/2-inch bowl gouge, deep fluted. This is a heavier tool, so it bounces around less. Still a bit to come off in the front and the middle. I'm going to use the wing this time, just to drag the tool back, rest a little bit high, so drop it. So it's just dragging the tool back. Now I'm going to just trim off, get this round on the outside, so lining the bevel up with where I want to go, which is pretty well parallel to the axis. And if you go racing off the end, it'll splinter, so come back round the other side. That's just using the wing of the tool here. And I now need to true up the back. So I've got quite a bit to take off, so I find the lowest bit. Right, so I can draw a line near the lowest part of the very eccentric rim there, and then I use the right wing of the tool just to come in and straighten that up, so I know what I've got to play with in the way of material. So finger underneath the rest, and that way I can only push the tool forward so far. And I have a lot more control doing that than if my hand's over the top. The other thing to notice is I'm holding the tool near the ferrule, and the side of the handle's in against my side, so I've got a lot of weight behind the tool. I just check that I've got all the eccentricity off, and I can see it's pretty well smooth all the way around. That's fine. So now I know how much material I have to play with. Now I can start thinking about the shape. And this is basically going to be a tray. So the pencil line is just there. I'm slightly, yes, right down to there. So it's there's probably a teeny bit more to come off. That really tells me I've got that thickness to play with. So now I'm going to flatten off the bottom first. Well, in fact, not so much flatten as I want it slightly hollow, so that when I've got when the tray is made, it's going to rest on its rim and not some dot in the centre. So this is a 3/4 inch scraper, called a square end. In fact, it's got a slight radius here, and the rest is high enough so that when I'm working at centre, that's tilted, the tool's tilted down. Otherwise, if I had the tool sticking up, then when I try to cut, it's going to catch. And the idea is just to kind of skim the surface off. Still a little lump in the middle. Still a little lump in the middle. I'm going to put the speed up a fraction now. So this is still pretty much roughing cuts. Probably want to see the surface. And being claret ash, very open grain, you tend to get this torn grain there. That sands pretty easily. Next is to start to get my overall shape. So I want somewhere to get my fingers underneath the side. So I'm going to use the 1/2 inch spindle gouge. Just going to take the edge through an arc into the corner here. Just let you see the shaving. Right, so that's what's doing the work, and it comes off the kind of polished edge around here, and the flute's coming out at about 45 degrees that way. There's a little catch. And that will probably do for this. I'm thinking this will probably be you can use it for anything from a kind of sushi tray to a drinks tray. But there's enough to get my fingers underneath there, and I'm just going to curve that a little bit more. And the best way to do that is with I can use my shear scraper. It's not going to go in there, it won't fit, but I can tilt it up and squeeze it around and get a nice clean surface. So the dust is coming off, and just see where the dust is coming off. And you can do this with a round nose scraper as well. That's tilted up steep enough, and I can get round the curve quite happily, and that gives me a really nice finished surface. A little bit of chip out there. There's still a bit of chip out there, so I just need to go more gently at that. So hands on the rest, and I'm just squeezing the tool in. I can also do that up on the rim here. Same thing. So So the hand's on the rest and you're squeezing in rather than pulling. So coming across the bottom, I'm going to hold this on an expanding collet, and I've got a big one here, so I'll set that diameter. Doesn't need to be very exact because it can go a little bit larger, and those jaws won't make a mark you'll be able to see really well. So the mark I make with the left, or the right point, needs to line up with the mark I'm making with the left, because you don't want the right point in the wood. The center needs to be between the 2 points. So it's going to be somewhere around there, and I can't quite see because the light isn't right. That was the line I've just made, and I'm just going to make it a shade further out. So this is, I need a little recess for the chuck jaws, and I do that with the square end scraper. I'm just going to ease it in on the left and then rock it. And that little zip sound was me just going a little bit too hard wood. I don't need more than about 3 mil at the most for this. I could probably hold it on 2. Now to get in underneath here, I can use a skew chisel on its side. I need a small one. So this is the 1/2 inch skew, and that'll just let me get in and dovetail it very slightly. Now the very important thing here is this groove needs to be flat, because otherwise the jaws won't, you want the jaws, the face of the jaws fitting flush against that. So I've got this little multiple straight edge, which lets me, I don't want any daylight underneath any part of it. That's flat, which is good. Maybe there's the hint of a dome in the middle, and I'll just get rid of that. Now, since I've got the skew in my hand, I'll use that. And then coming across the rest of the face, I'm going to use the shear scraper again on its flat on the rest, because it's skewed, and it's much easier to move the tool when it's skewed than a straight one like that. Much more difficult to get a smooth line, flowing line, and the tool's at right angles to the surface you're cutting. So just move the rest back a bit so I can tilt down into center. Now just to round that over a bit, I'm just going to rock the tool so it just rounds it over. And I've got on the corner here, I've ground, this is a rounded side, so I've just ground the corner out. So I've got a little corner, and that allows me to put a bit of decoration in there without any real effort or strain. I need to make sure that this is just sitting out here, not there. Yes, so I'm just going to get the ruler there to make sure that it's sitting on the rim here rather than somewhere in the center. So that's fine. Now I'm going to sand this, and I've got my little dust hood here which encloses it. And I really only need to do the bits now which I can't get at later. So I've just got to do the inside bits there. And start with 120 grit. That's not quite new enough. You always got to use sandpaper as if you've been given a lifetime supply. At the moment it's not cutting very well, might as well throw it away. Just check, a little bit more to go there. This has picked up a little bit, so I'm just going to redo that, just recut it with the shear scraper. It would have been sensible to have marked where that was with pencil, so I know where to look for it. It's somewhere on the oncoming grain. Wherever it is, it's gone. That was 100. This is the yellow, which is 180. Sanding really shouldn't take too long if you've got a reasonably good tool surface. And a bit of 240, so the abrasive always gets folded with the numbers, with the warp of the material. That way it stays folded, whereas if you fold it the other way it tends to unroll. And this is boiled linseed oil. Because it's ash, it then stop the lathe and just make sure it gets into the grain. I very rarely finish anything finer than 240 grit. And so that's boiled linseed oil. This is beeswax, pure beeswax, and that gets melt in a sticky layer of it. And then build up the heat with the friction and let it melt it into the wood, and any surplus comes off onto the rag. So I haven't done this bit yet because I'll do that when I get round to the other side. Right, so that's the bottom done, and just get the chuck on and remount it. Now, where are we? So this is a VM 120 with what I think are called multi-purpose jaws, with the middle jaws taken out. This is what I use for big plates and things. So just tight enough to, like turning off a tap, you just need enough pressure to stop the water flowing in a tap. You don't need to kind of try and screw the washer into bits. Right, so that's good. Next thing is to get this flat, and then I can drill a depth hole. So I'm going to do this with the deep fluted bowl gouge, the 1/2 inch. I've already got a flat area here, but I can use this wing just to roll the tool over, just squeezing the tool in onto the surface. I have my little finger up there so it doesn't come into my face. Then roll the tool over so I've got the bevel rubbing here and then I've got a shear cut back to the middle. And the rest's a little bit high for this tool, so there's a little bit more of a lump to come off in the middle. Little bit of dip there, but that is the same height as the rim, which is the main thing. Now I need to just true up the hole in the middle. It's just easier to get my depth drill in. And somewhere I've got a new depth drill which I've put some out. Here we are. So it's just a twist drill with a few marks on, so that you can see how deep the drill's gone, which is very important in this situation. I've got to remember that I've got a recess in the bottom, which I don't normally have, and I don't have any suitable marks on the drill yet, so I'm about to put some on. Right, so nice fresh marks to look at. And go down to that and drop the rest slightly. No, I can't. I need another rest. Normally I use these robust rests. So just check where I was again. Just push it in up to the mark, and that's it. So the next thing is to take the bulk out with the gouge. It's probably quicker, and then finish it off with a scraper. But the main thing I've got to worry about is as I come in with the gouge, the shape, I've got an asymmetric tool, much shorter right wing than the left, and so you get these coves, and it's very easy to take those down below the bottom of your hole, the depth hole. So you want to get down to the bottom of the depth hole first. This is pretty dry wood, this, I'm not used to that. So I need to keep more weight behind the tool so that it doesn't chatter so much. So basically the tool starts on its side, ease it into the wood, and then I can rotate it very slightly clockwise to get a better shaving. And off this tool, one of the advantages of the asymmetric grind is you get this very short wing. It's convex curve, so it's quite a good thick shaving, and it's almost a kind of scraping action, but you get the cleanness of the cut coming off the nose of the tool, where the cutting angle is around 45 degrees. So now beginning to get down to where I'm starting to need to go in with the square end scraper and just start to flatten the whole thing out. Now I'm going to check my progress with this little multi straight edge, which is made out of a bit of plywood, easy enough to do. All you need is a belt sander or a disc sander, so you can get the straight edge. The rest is coming up very slightly because I'm going to be on a flat surface. Always down to the middle. Do a little test run. There's still a dot from the drill in the middle there, but more important really to see how I'm going for level, and it's rubbing out on the points, so quite a bit can come off here. Take the black dot away in the middle. That's looking much better. Now I want this flat, so I've got to be very careful not to roll it over so it gets so it basically is higher in the middle than it is at the edges. Doesn't look too bad. I've also got a metal ruler, which means I can go a bit harder onto the wood, and anywhere where there's a burnish mark means it's a bit high, just there and there. Now I'm going to have my first kind of check as to how thick it is. These calipers really the best for this job, and I've got a little brass wheel here which I let out, and that is how thick it is across the bottom, which for a tray could be a little bit thinner. That's the gap over the over where the jaws are sitting in the rebate, so I can come down about 1/8 of an inch on that, which is always tempting just to leave it when you know it's flat, but anyway, this is partly a demo as well. So we go down, I can go down that far, and that's when it gets down to about the right thickness, it's going to make that shrieking noise. And I'm going to keep that in the middle for the moment, so I know where I was before I started hollowing further. We're just taking away the burnish mark. It's quite difficult to see sometimes. And this has now got one cup in the middle. And that chattering noise means I'm likely to get chatter marks. If you're going to have chatter marks, if you make them really bad, you can keep them as decoration, but hopefully they're not that bad. Now, starting to think about the rim. So, I'm going to cut that. I usually do that with a spindle gouge. This is the 3/8 spindle gouge. I think I'm going to, actually I'll come back up for the moment, just take a slightly heavier cut with a 3/8 bowl gouge, and I'm going to reduce the height a bit here. So in this case I've got my hand on the rest and just ease the tool forwards using just below, just to the right of the nose of the tool. A couple of issues here. I usually put a little groove just at the end of the flat surface, and there are two reasons for that. First is it's really awkward to sand right into a corner and get it clean. So if I have a little groove there, then that means that I've got a flat surface. I can stand right to the over the top of that, and there's a definite line in the corner. It just seems to work better. And then the other thing, that as a tray, you want to know where the flat surface ends. You don't really want a gentle curve coming up, otherwise you're going to spill glasses or bottles or whatever else you're carrying. So now I'm going to use the 3/8 spindle gouge, fingernail grind, and just shift the rest in a little bit so I can ride the bevel there, and I'm just going to roll the tool over, get a little gentle shaving and come into the corner, right on its side, and that does that. So, see how we're going there? Right, that's flat. Now there are problems when you start to sand. So usually sand with a block, because the wood's not moving so fast near centre, so it pays when you're doing the initial sanding. I'm going to use 120 grit. We'll sand it first just with the block right the way across. I can already feel a slight lump developing in the middle. So the trick here is to stop the lathe and then stand across the middle and rotate by hand at the same time. And every time you go over, you're just flattening the centre. We'll go right the way through with this, won't take very long. So now I can do the outside. I've already done the bottom, remember? 180 grit. There were a few little scratches, of course, at the time, but nothing too major. They'll go with the next grit down. what you need is steady, even pressure when you're sanding, rather than jabbing at it. Right, that's the 180. And I'm going to finish this off with a rotary sander. This is the Vicmark rotary sander, which I reckon is by far the best. Don't seem to, the rubber seems to survive better than most of the others. So this is going round with the wood. There's no motor involved, and it generally takes away any kind of scratch marks. Just need a little handheld bit just to get right into the corner. It's 320. No, sorry, 240. So that's that. This is the boiled linseed. Give it a good squirt. And finishing generally with the oil and wax finish, it shouldn't take very long. Whereas when we tend to start doing things, first doing this, you spend hours polishing, which you don't necessarily need to do. So there's a fair bit of pressure there to get the wax melted in. I need another bit of rag, but I can't remember where I put it at the moment. No, it's in a drawer, hidden away somewhere. Oh, I know where it is. It's in here. So this is just a fresher bit of cotton rag, and that takes the surplus oil and the wax away. Right, another tray. Right, so we can check. Yep. Good, so that's, and it's easy to pick up. And it'll hold a bottle, maybe 3 glasses. You don't want to share a bottle with too many, do you?